What's up, y'all? This is Will here at Schedulefly, and we have yet another very special episode. What I would say is a very important episode, and an episode we're extremely proud to be able to share with you. This is Hosea and Lauren Rosenberg. They're in Boulder, Colorado. I got to sit down with them in person this week at Santo, one of their two restaurants. They have Santo and Black Belly Market. Both these restaurants are phenomenal. They're well-loved. They're exceptional hospitality, everything you would want in a great restaurant. And we talk about restaurants and the hospitality scene for maybe 30 or 40% of this episode, and then we get into the story of Sophie, their daughter. And this is by far, the most important part of their life right now, and is a story of a beautiful young lady who, I believe at age 3, was diagnosed with a very rare, extraordinarily rare genetic disorder that is shared by only about 30 people around the world, 30 known cases, if I'm correct. And they found this out right as COVID was kicking in March of 2020, when they were having to close their restaurants, and they got this devastating news. And they immediately got to work on research and trying to raise funds, and they started a 501c3 right away, and it's called Sophie's Neighborhood. And I encourage you, please go to sophiesneighborhood.org. sophiesneighborhood.org. You can read about Sophie, you can read about her condition, and you can see a wonderful video of her and Hosea and Lauren telling the story. So we're super thrilled to have this opportunity. We hope that you will be as touched as we are about Sophie, and get involved in any possible way you can. sophiesneighborhood.org. We're not going to do sponsors for this episode. I want to go straight to the content. So thank you all for listening. And we recorded 3 other episodes out there in Boulder, so we'll be rolling those out over the next few days. But y'all have a great day. Have a great weekend. Thank you very much for listening. More coming soon. And here we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
So we're all good. All right. We're recording. So this is a very special opportunity. And actually, Hosea and Lauren, y'all just introduce yourselves.
My name is Lauren Rosenberg. I handle our marketing, PR, social media for Black Belly and Santo in Boulder.
All right. Hosea?
Hosea Rosenberg, chef and owner of Black Belly and Santo here in Boulder. Been a chef for more years than I can count, most of my life, and been in Boulder for a long time.
Well, so as I was telling you all, a buddy of mine and I ate at Black Belly last night. Amazing. And by the way, I will tell you that I told multiple people that I came across yesterday. They're like, what are you doing the rest of the day, blah, blah, and the last thing I was doing was, I'm going to Black Belly for dinner, and everybody be like, oh, dude, that place is awesome. I mean, amazing. Like, it was a very immediate sort of visceral reaction. So
that's great.
It lived up to all the expectations.
Wonderful. That's all we have, is our reputation. So, there's a reason I didn't name the restaurant Hosea's Place. I want the restaurant to stand on its own, and whoever's back there cooking and whoever's bringing your food should love it. And hopefully the customers do too.
So how you've been in the business for a long time. Lauren, have you been in the business for a long time too?
Not as long as Hosea. My career after college was mostly centered on advertising and marketing and media in New York City. So I was working for a couple major ad agencies for the first few years post college, and then transferred over to media sales. So I was working for Time Inc., Sports Illustrated, People Magazine, and Cooking Light, Ski Magazine as well, selling major marketing programs to big advertisers. And I did that for about 12 years or so, but started to see the magazine industry going a little bit down the tubes, and but also having some new interests as I was going about the years of that role. I was spending a lot of time in restaurants, for work and entertaining clients, and I started getting really curious about how it all worked. How the restaurant business, the inner workings and behind the scenes of restaurants became a big curiosity of mine. And so while I was still living in New York, I left my job and I went full-time to culinary school at Institute of Culinary Education.
Wow.
And did mostly restaurant management focus, but some culinary.
You really were curious.
I did. I wanted to learn. I knew really nothing. I mean, I had worked in small cafes and stuff in high school, but I knew if I was really going to try to apply, this as a career in some way, that I had to learn some more. And so when I came out of that program, I realized, okay, I can mesh together my experience in marketing with the restaurant industry. And that's kind of the direction I went in, and subsequently how we met through, mutual friends that I made in the industry. So yes, my road here is a little more windy than his, but it's a great business to be in.
And so were you from New Mexico? Is that what
Born and raised in Taos, New Mexico.
Ooh.
Yep.
I've heard so many good things about Taos.
That's why I built this restaurant. I missed the food a lot, and nobody here was doing exactly what I consider like New Mexican food. There's a lot of good Mexican joints here, but a big part of the culture down there is the food.
Oh, man. I want to ski in Taos. We'll talk
awesome.
about that another time. That's always on my bucket list.
We actually just booked a weekend down there because, it's a great mountain to ski. I miss it. I grew up. That's where I learned to ski.
It's an awesome mountain. Yep. And they have an amazing adaptive ski program. Our daughter is doing well, and so we're going to go back. This season. Yeah.
Do you ski a lot? Do you ski too long? Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's what brought me out here, really. With the mountains.
It's why I put when I finally proposed to her, once I knew she skied, she checked all the other boxes.
There you go.
And she's really good. She doesn't just ski. She's like a really good skier.
Oh, can I come skiing with y'all sometime?
Yes,
anytime.
I skied with Dave.
We
actually skied right before at Eldora, like 2 weeks before COVID. I mean, it was when we were like, is this going to be a thing?
Right.
Everyone had those moments.
It happened real fast, right? It was like, I mean, he was, I think he made like a Corona with lime, like it was like we were, it was just like, not going to be a bit, whatever. And then boom, before, I mean, it's crazy. So yes, if you snowboarded, it might be a different story, right? Like maybe it didn't work out.
Especially because Taos Ski Valley only recently opened it up to snowboarders.
Yeah, probably about a decade ago.
Oh,
they were
really?
one of the last holdouts to allow snowboards on the mountain, and there's still some purists up there.
There's still some
pretty
purists.
angry about that.
Yeah, they all go to Alta now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, you see
I was admiring
old school spread eagle.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we won't make this a ski podcast, but when I was getting out of college, I was in North Carolina, and I grew up skiing in the North Carolina mountains, but I fell in love with it. I started when I was 4, and I was obsessed. I mean, madly obsessed. And anytime I could get up there, I'd go. And then we came to Park City when I was in 8th grade. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Wow.
It's a major difference to come out west. Yeah.
And so
I had that eye-opening too.
I got out of college in 96, and I was like, I really wanted to go. My dream was I'm going to go to Park City, I'm going to be a bartender, and I'm going to be a ski instructor and just figure it out. Mm-hmm. But then everybody I was graduating from college with was going and getting a real job, and I didn't have the guts to just be like, I don't care, I'm going to do my own thing. I just didn't. And so I went into banking, and I lasted 2 years. I was like, I can't do this corporate America thing. Anyway, it's all worked out. I got a beautiful wife, 3 kids, all good, great business. But I've always said, if one of my kids comes to me, it's like, I got this dream. I'm like, go do that. You're young, you'll figure everything out.
Totally.
So okay,
yes.
All right. So how long have you been here? You have Santo and Black Belly. Is Santo your first place here?
No, I started Black Belly a little over 10 years ago as a boutique catering business. I had been working for Dave Query, actually, and some other great operators before that, and I was fortunate enough to get picked to be on Top Chef. I won my season, and so that opened up a lot of doors. But one thing I did was I took some time off. My dad was really sick, and so I sort of took a break from the restaurants for a couple months to be with him, and after that, sort of, dug deep and decided, what do I want to do? What's my passion? And I'd been invited to a lot of food festivals and a lot of kind of events all over the world, mainly all over the country. And there was this moment. I was in California at this food and wine festival. It was a heirloom tomato festival in Sonoma, California. And I met this couple. They had a catering business and a farm, and they were raising their own pigs and growing their own produce. And they brought all this big, beautiful spread of food, and everything they had cooked, they had grown. And that was like a big moment for me, and it was something that I wanted to try to do here. I figured, we've got great farms and great produce and great animals, and so I started Blackbelly with a buddy. He had a little farmland, so we were raising some pigs and some lamb, and we started growing some produce. And I bought this food truck and just started it out as a very small one-man show to a two-man show to, it sort of grew pretty organically and pretty quickly. And so the first couple of years, it was just catering out of this little, rented kitchen and this food truck. And then I found this space in East Boulder that was going to be a bigger commissary kitchen with maybe a little cafe in it. But as we started designing the space and looking at everything around there, we realized it was like kind of a food desert on that side of town, and that we might as well have a full bar and actually do a proper restaurant. So we built and opened Blackbelly in 2014. So we just had our 8-year anniversary last week.
Last week.
Last week. Thank you. And so that started brick and mortar 8 years ago. A year and a half after we opened the restaurant, we opened up a butcher shop next door, because that was always a big part of our model and our kind of mission is to use whole animal and do a lot of butchery work, make sausage, do cured meats, that kind of thing. So we were doing that inside the same restaurant space as the restaurant and the catering. Everybody was kind of on top of each other. It was a good problem to have. We were growing quickly. And so we opened up the butcher. And so we have like a butcher shop and a market that's next door that sort of serves the restaurant, sells its own products, but also, supplies meats to the restaurant and to the catering operation. And actually, currently, we're under a big construction project right now. We're doing another expansion of the space. So we're going to have a bigger, about twice the size butcher shop and market. We're building a big catering kitchen in between the two, and then a nice, really pretty private dining room for events in the space. So we went from a couple hundred square feet at one point to about 9,000 square feet now over there.
Oh, man.
And Santo, we opened exactly 5 years ago. Tomorrow's
our anniversary.
Tomorrow's our 5-year anniversary here.
Nice.
I always remember the age of Santo based on our daughter's age, because we opened Santo when she was 4 months old or 5 months old.
Oh, God.
In 1 year's time, we got married, had a baby, and opened a restaurant. That was a lot to do in a year.
That was a big year.
Yes. And here you are, well done. Congratulations. You're still married, and your restaurants are thriving. That's quite an accomplishment.
Well, we've really put our marriage to the test.
My God,
opening a restaurant together, having a kid can really put people to the test. And then going through the pandemic together, I think really tests people as well. So
construction. We're under construction in multiple ways.
Yeah,
our home is under construction right now. We're under construction at Blackbelly.
And we're going to be opening another restaurant as well, that we have a lease signed in a space that we're designing currently. So a lot of irons in the fire.
We don't like to sleep, I guess.
I was going to say, rolling stone grows no moss, I guess. You guys are staying pretty active.
When we're dead.
So, do you own that building?
No.
Okay.
I've got a fantastic landlord, though.
Yeah.
He's been a partner in this all along, and so
he's amazing.
For instance,
makes
the
a
space,
huge difference.
The space that we just acquired that we're moving the new market into, we signed the lease a little over a year ago, and he's not charging us rent until we open the doors for business. He's also helping us with a lot of the TI. He's putting in new storefront, new windows. He's building the patio for us. So we feel really fortunate. I know it's a smart move to have real estate, but in this case, he's got maintenance guys and groundskeepers and all sorts of people that kind of help us keep the building together. And to me, that's just a mental load that I don't need to carry right now.
Yeah, for sure.
He's such a good human.
Just a good person.
We like him a lot, which I think is a rarity with landlord relationships.
Yeah.
So.
Yes,
it's important.
No, that's a great thing. Well, I'm okay. There's so many things I want to talk to you all about, and I want to talk to you about Sophie. Before we get into that, I do want to ask you, because I'm personally really into eating good quality beef and cow products. I mean, I spend a lot. I drink a lot of milk. I eat a lot of cheese. I eat a lot of beef. And I really, my I guess like second cousin has a cattle farm, so I buy like a quarter of a cow from him every few months. And,
cool.
Oh yeah, I love that. It's been interesting because it's been an education over the years, learning about feedlot cattle, and then grass-fed cattle, and then grass-fed, grass-finished, and all this kind of stuff, and then using the whole cow, as you said. I mean, I've got a buddy that's into this too, more than me. I mean, he's eating organs, livers and hearts, and he gets all that. I'm not quite there, but that is like. Having said that, it is highly nutrient dense. Like that's what predators go for first, right? It's the organs, and then they, go out from there. But so I'm just curious about that. I mean, the butcher shop, like personally, is like super interesting to me. And by the way, I had the strip last night. Nice. Both of us did. Me and my friend, fantastic, really good, really, really, really good.
Was the 7X? I'm guessing 7X Wagyu. Was it the Wagyu strip?
No. It was like the
Blue Hill 7.
It was just a New York. I don't think it wasn't Wagyu. Okay. I didn't do the highest end stuff, but right. But it was damn good.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm personally curious about that part of it. I also think, like, not to carry this off into Never Neverland, but I do think regenerative farming is something that we need to be really thoughtful about. And I've watched Alan Savory talk, and just have tried to learn a lot about that, because I think that we've there's certain conversations around cows being bad for the and I'm actually all for very much for doing everything we can for the environment. And I've learned a lot about regenerative farming and what ruminant animals on a that's properly managed can actually do to take desertified land and turn it into thriving. Anyway.
Well, you touched on a number of things.
Yeah, I did.
And I could probably talk about this for the rest of the day. But when we started, we named the restaurant after a breed of sheep, because I believe that Colorado has the best lamb in the world. It's good. It's just good farmland for lamb. In fact, we were at a conference or something just recently where one of the farmers was talking about the landscape in Colorado. We have a lot of mountainous terrain.
Yes.
Sheep and lamb do well with rocky soil, areas where there's holes in the ground, whatever. Cows don't do as well with that.
Right.
So we focus a lot on our lamb program, but we sell more beef than anything else.
Yeah.
People love steaks, as you do. So our ranchers are partners in what we do, and we can tell you the story of that steak. We can tell you where it came from, who raised it, the farmer's name, the address of their farm. It's not just something that we call up, Shamrock and we want New York strips. Like, we actually talk to the ranchers. They'll slaughter a cow. They'll have it processed, and then they either bring a half cow or 4 quarters. We never get the entire cow in.
It's too big.
We do get whole beef and lamb, end to end, just with the guts out. But the cows are a little bit big. It's pretty hard to carry a 2,000-pound carcass.
Yeah.
But we get them in, and we use everything. And so one of the things that we try to teach our customers is that we'd rather you eat less meat but eat really good meat than just eat lots of meat.
Yeah.
And then the other big thing is the cuts. You go into a steakhouse, I'll take the filet mignon, New York strip, the ribeye. That's like the main 3 things that people always buy. When we break down a whole cow, you got a 2,000-pound animal, and you got about 40 pounds of filet. So you got another 1,960 pounds of meat and bones to deal with that isn't that premium cut, which in my opinion doesn't even have that much flavor. So we try to educate people on kind of these offcuts, and not even just the organ meat, but like things off the legs, things off the sirloin that aren't, premium, but some of these cuts, we have a steak called the Denver steak or the Flatiron or the Bavette, and these are cheaper. They're more plentiful. They're not, grabbed up and marked up really high, and so you can get a really tasty piece of beef on the plate that costs about half as much as a filet mignon would, and in my opinion, way, way tastier. So we can kind of educate our staff, and they educate the guests, and we try to let people know, even in our butcher shop, there's sometimes you come in and you don't see the cut you came in for.
Yeah.
And our reason for that is, hey, we're doing 1 cow at a time. We got to get our way through it. We roast the bones and make bone stock. We use that for sauces, but we also sell bone broth by the cup, and especially in the winter right now.
Yep.
People drink it, or they'll use it for a soup base or something like that. We take the tendons and the weird bits, and we'll make dog treats out of those things.
Yes.
Sometimes we dry the skin, use those as dog treats. We grind stuff up, make sausage. We pretty much use every part of the whole animal, and that's just part of our mission. And I know occasionally we get people that are disappointed. They came in for a specific cut because that's what their wife wanted for dinner or whatever, and we do our best to kind of teach them that there's other ways and there's better things. And we only buy from a couple people because we have these relationships with these ranchers, and we believe in the way they're treating their animals. So to your point about regenerative farming, treatment of animals, no hormones, antibiotics, all that good stuff. There's a lot of goodness that can be done. And when you're doing small farming where the cows have a lot of land to graze on, they're not having a huge negative impact on the environment. So we believe in what we're doing. We believe that meat is okay to eat. It just doesn't need to be excessive. We've actually had events at our restaurant where we do like these butcher programs. We have people come in, and we hosted this seminar, and we had PETA, these people come in and protest. They had banners, and they were shouting at us that meat is murder. And there's a Wendy's across the street, and
you go over there and protest Wendy's.
I've eaten my Wendy's hamburger too, but like that, if you're going to go at the meat industry, don't go at a small, mom and pop organization that's trying to support healthy animals and good welfare,
responsible raising of animals.
There's these feedlots and this mass production of cheap meat that's where we.
The cows are under massive amounts of stress. They're treated horribly.
They're all sick.
Go watch the. I haven't even watched Alone. I've heard about it, but about that show Alone, like.
Haven't seen
they put you out in the, they like put these people out in the middle of nowhere, and they have to. It's like whoever lasts the longest, and they're all off in their own plots of land, but like they have to, like, if you're not good at hunting, you're not going to make it. Like, you can only have, like, you got to have the, so it's okay. It's just, yes. But then, no, like, McDonald's just, I don't even know what's in that, but, it's, there's a spectrum.
Yes, exactly. Certainly.
Okay. So then, your daughter, Sophie, is 5 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, how old was she when you realized something was up?
So it was right around the time that she should have started walking. So right around a year, maybe a few months after. I'd say maybe around 15 months when I really was like, what's going on here? Because so her milestones were all completely normal up until that point. But anytime
she was crawling, she had, everything else seemed
sitting up, crawling,
seemed fine and normal.
Yeah. Everything was really fine. And then, she tried to stand up. She'd try to hold on to something. She actually would crawl into our dog's little pen and try to stick her head out through the top and pull herself up. But then she would just start to cry and sit back down. And so we went to our pediatrician and we explained what was happening, and it was just really confusing. But she gave us 5 different things to do, 5 different specialists. Go do some genetic testing, go see an orthopedist, go check out, go to an ENT, and let's look at her vestibular system. Because that's your inner ear kind of, that can kind of throw off your balance in kids. And, so she just had a list of things. We didn't panic because, everything really seemed fine with Sophie.
Right.
Up until that point. And it was a few months after that when we were at that orthopedist appointment where they were looking at her feet. They looked, just a little puffy, so they did an x-ray. And that was what led us to realize, so that x-ray of her feet showed inflammation around the joints of her ankle bones and her foot bones. And then the development of those bones was totally irregular. And the doctors were, the orthopedist was like, wow, I don't know why this bone looks this way. I've never seen that before. So that was frightening. But they sent us to a rheumatologist because of the inflammation, and that's an arthritis doctor. And that doctor, who we love, we still, see her today and rely on her very much. But she basically diagnosed Sophie with having juvenile arthritis based on, seeing inflammation. We did some more ultrasounds and some more tests, and we saw inflammation in her joints, in her hands as well. And we thought that's what she had was arthritis. But one of those things on that checklist that our doctor sent us out to do was genetic testing. And so we did one round that came back completely negative that studied maybe 5,000 additional genes that hadn't been studied in her yet. And then when nothing came back on that, but we were curious about this bone development thing, and we saw another geneticist, they recommended something called Whole Exome Sequencing. And that is a genetic test that can study your entire genome, all 20,000 genes. And I didn't know this until this point. I didn't even realize that what we had been doing up until that point wasn't studying her entire genome. I thought if we got a diagnosis from the genetic testing we'd already done, it meant, we had our it was the only way. But I think what people don't realize is that there's much better genetic testing out there that's not offered immediately to anyone. And that was kind of disappointing to me because I wish I had learned about what she had like the day she was born. I would have loved her to have that genetic test the day she was born and buy us some time to help her. But in any case, we did get her diagnosis finally of something incredibly rare. So March 2020, the week that everything shut down for COVID, we got her results of her whole exome sequencing back. And Hosea and I actually were on our way to come into Santo to talk to our managers about how we were going to handle the upcoming shutdown and what that meant for our staff. And obviously, it was scary and really upsetting to deal with that. But our doctor, or Sophie's geneticist, said we need to talk. And we sat in the car in this parking lot here and listened to her tell us. You can take it.
Yeah. It's one of those moments we'll remember forever. We were sitting in the car already really upset that we'd have to effectively lay off our whole staff. And when they told us that it needed to be a phone call, we were concerned because they would have just left a voicemail if everything was fine. So she told us that she has something called MCTO. We'd never heard of this. It stands for Multicentric Carpotarsal Osteolysis, which is the slow breakdown and degradation of the joint bones, the carpal and tarsal bones to begin with, but pretty much every bone in the body is affected. It's a
progressive disease.
Single mutation of a single letter, one protein in a long chain of other proteins, but just that one letter creates havoc in the development, and it affects the bones and the kidneys. So her kidneys are affected. She's on kidney medication. They're doing okay right now, but not great. But the bones, and that explained so much. It explained why she had inflammation, pain, why she couldn't walk, why her wrists and her ankles hurt and were puffy.
And I think the hardest thing too was just that they told us right there on that phone call that maybe 30 people in the world have this, and that there's no known effective way to treat it or stop it, and that progressively over time her bones would begin to disappear, and that she might lose function of her hands and her feet, and and at that point we got her walking because she was on these arthritis meds that were actually helping her and wearing these braces, and so she was walking. So we were like, oh my God, so you're telling me that she's going to stop walking again? And so all these things as a parent run through your head, and you just want to help your child.
Well, and it was just such a roller coaster for us because, as Lauren said, we thought we had solved something and we were getting her treated.
Yeah.
But it was treating a symptom. It wasn't treating the problem. And what it was doing was just helping a little bit, giving her less pain so she could actually stand up. But
I will say it was so... In hindsight, it's so good that we got the accurate diagnosis for so many reasons, but one of them being that she had been taking a medicine, a naproxen, which is kind of like an Aleve for inflammation, which is really good for treating inflammation. But when you have someone with a kidney problem, with kidney disease, you don't want any of those drugs, that class of drugs, to be given because it processes through the kidneys, and so we realized, oh my gosh, we need to protect her kidneys. She can't take this particular drug anymore. So we were able to take that out of her regimen, which was a positive. And then immediately we started our nonprofit. It was motivation enough just to say there's something really bad that's happening to your child and nobody knows how to help you. And I just thought that was completely unacceptable. And so we, naively, I said, well, we're going to figure this out and we're going to be responsible for the research and we're going to get her treatment. And so because we had so much free time coming up with the pandemic, although we didn't realize how much time we'd be stuck at home and not being able to go anywhere, I think actually helped launch this nonprofit that we have. So Sophie's Neighborhood was started immediately. So that was March. We got her diagnosis. By, I think it was April 18th, I had our nonprofit designation certified by, the government, the IRS, and had a website, started fundraising, put together a scientific advisory board. We're really lucky here in Boulder because of the university, and there's a lot of biosciences. It's a major industry and continuously growing industry in Boulder, which I hadn't actually known until now. And so we had access to people who jumped on board right away to help us, outside of just the doctors that we were trying to get in to see Sophie and figure out how to help just sort of on a clinical perspective. We needed major research and, everything from genetics and, molecular biology and people that were on the cutting edge in biotech. And so we were able to gather those people together and now sit on our board and are the reason why we have any hope at all to help Sophie.
Well, we had a couple, lucky moments during this unlucky time. There's a few angels floating around here. And one of the first people that we talked to randomly was at the restaurant we went to the day we found out, the day we had the diagnosis. One of our friends, it's no longer here, but it was our favorite restaurant at the time. And we just wanted to grab Sophie and go have a nice little family dinner and just, be together and just kind of think about it. And across the room, I saw this guy, Larry Gold, who was an investor in Dave's group, and I knew him from all those restaurants, and I knew he was a big deal in the scientific world, but I didn't know exactly what his expertise was or exactly what he did. But I knew he was a very smart guy with a lot of connections, and so he happened to be at the restaurant at the same time, and he was sitting with another friend of ours who we reached out to as soon as we got done with dinner and asked if she would put us together with him. He reached out the next day, or might even been that night.
Same night.
And told us that we needed to come in and see him the next day. And he took one look at her genetic report, and he said,
I'm going to give you the help you need and deserve. And from that point on, he's been our just guiding
Larry
angel.
Gold.
Larry Gold, yeah.
Okay.
He's a hero. He just turned 80. He
started SomaLogic, which is a major proteomics company here based.
A major what?
Proteomics. So the study of proteins, which is really important. It's a lot of people focused on DNA for a really long time and realizing that actually DNA encodes RNA, which then leads to these proteins that go on to do every function in your body. And so that studying of proteins is extremely important in trying to interfere with a condition. And so the testing and the technology that they have at SomaLogic is now helping us identify pathways to treat Sophie with existing medications that are already FDA approved, but not known for this condition yet. And so that's our primary goal, is to find an effective drug that exists. That's safe in children. That's that we can start using for her. While in parallel, we research things that are more curative and more targeted specifically to what she has, if that can be done. And so, it's turned into this. It's turned into basically my main focus. Primarily, I obviously still do a ton of work with our restaurants, but making sure that this research is done by the smartest people and the people that can get us to our goal, which is to stop this disease from progressing in Sophie, and to give her the life that she deserves. That's really my primary goal.
Some of the hardest things about what we're doing and what Lauren's trying to achieve with the foundation is that with the research and trying to come up with a new treatment or new drug, you have to go through the FDA, and that can take decades to get something approved. You can
to start something that's completely novel is like a 10 to 20 year process.
Trials
for a lot of,
and
a lot of reasons.
Well, and you compound that with the fact that we're talking about a couple dozen individuals that are alive today on the planet that have this disorder. It's really hard to collect data. It's hard to put the same. We've only physically met one other person so far
in person. We're in touch with many across the world,
and it's frightening and it's really devastating. And Sophie, comparative to some of these other kids, is actually doing a lot better. And it may be because of the drugs we've been giving her and the treatment that she's been getting since early on. But some of the kids that are just a little bit older than her have no function in their hands or arms or legs. And there's a girl in Chicago who's in her early teens, I think, mid-teens. She basically has no bones left. She sits in a chair and she can move like one finger, and it's just really tough because your intellect is there. You know what's happening. And that's, I think, to me, the most frightening thing for Sophie is that she's starting to learn that this is her body and it's not normal and it's not the same as her friends, and it holds her back. And the hardest part that we're going to have to explain to her at some point is that if we can't solve it, that it's going to get worse. And that's like the last thing a parent ever wants to tell their kid.
So does she ask you?
She doesn't ask a lot, but we go to so many doctor's appointments, therapists. She does, a lot of physical therapy, occupational therapy. She knows, so we talk about all the stuff that she has to do to make sure that her bones are working properly and staying strong, and that's kind of how we always phrase it. She talks about her special bones, and she embraces. She embraces it. She wears these braces, and we actually, when she started kindergarten, the teachers and principal invited us in to talk to the whole kindergarten about it, just so everyone was aware of Sophie's special needs, because on the playground it can get kind of hectic, and if she gets knocked down, she can fracture a little bit easier than another kid, and we don't know if it'll heal at all or properly if she does fracture, especially in a joint where the disease is really present. And so we kind of, were able to come in, and she showed off her braces, and they've got color, they're colorful, and they've got characters on them, so I think at her age, I think it is hard to comprehend, but she recognizes that she has limitations, and that she has special bones, and that we're doing everything we can to try to help her.
She's fully aware that she's the only one in her class with braces on her.
Right,
that she needs that extra help to do certain things, and so she seems to be handling that fairly well. We do...
Every so often she gets sad that she can't do something, or that she feels like kids aren't playing with her, but I think at this age, that's a feeling that I think a lot of kids have, because if their friend doesn't want to play with the thing they want to play with,
right,
then they're sad about that. But I think, it'll be a little bit harder as she gets a little bit older, and then really has to deal with some adversity that might come her way based on having some differences. But it's making her stronger. She's very empathetic. If somebody hurts themselves, or Hosea stubs his toe a lot.
She'll get really sad when I get her. And I get her a lot,
She pulls out her doctor kit, puts on her doctor coat, and tries to help. So it's really sweet, kind of some of the result of having to go to so many doctor's appointments, get so many shots, and IVs, and she has to face a lot of just poking and prodding, and so I think because of that, she's very empathetic herself, and she's tough. She's getting really tough because of it.
When you raise money through Sophie's Neighborhood, where does that go?
So it goes into a fund that we then can fund scientists around the world. So we have a number of different projects happening at universities and companies, biotech companies across the world. So we have 2 different mouse models based on Sophie's mutation.
Okay.
And so those animal models are very important in studying a disease and potential treatments, because you can have a lot of, colonies of mice, and you can dissect them. You can do a lot to them. And they actually, mice replicate the human anatomy more so than you would think. And so, so we started funding one researcher in Japan that's got doing a number of mouse studies, and then we have another group in actually in Maine that has a Sophie mutation mouse model as well. So we've got that, and then we have researchers at universities, 2 different projects at Harvard and Boston Children's Hospital, where they're studying how the gene that's mutated in Sophie is how instrumental it is in bone development, because one thing that there's been a little bit that's been studied previously about this disease, very, very minimal, and everyone was focused on bone resorption cells, which is sort of like the cells that sort of break down bone, so then you have bone remodeling, and that's how you develop and grow more bone. But those are 2 different cell types, and so we want to know more about what's the role of this gene in bone development. And then once you know that normal developmental path, then you can kind of see, well, what's going wrong when it's mutated. And once you can better understand all of that mechanistic science, then you can really figure out how to fix it. But none of that groundwork has really been done for this condition. And so it's been left to us to fund it. And it's very costly.
I bet.
We've committed to quite a bit of research, and we're just hoping that we can get the funds together fast enough in order to get it all done. But I know we will, because there's no better motivation than this, and so we just won't stop. So we got very lucky right when we launched the nonprofit. Even though we were in pandemic times and could not hold like an in-person fundraiser, we did these silent auctions that were all entirely virtual, which I hadn't thought of at the time, but it enabled us to make it a national event, and so people everywhere could bid on amazing experiences and items that we were offering, and the entire restaurant community nationally just came to our side, and chefs and restaurant owners were just offering, their time, virtual cooking demos, flying out to wherever someone would live to create a private dinner for them, just all of their products, and this was during a time when we were all like, we're so screwed. We're all going to lose our entire livelihood because of this pandemic. And it was like, it didn't matter. Everyone in this industry just came to our side locally and across the country. And it just gave us the springboard that we needed. And we raised like $200,000 in one event in our first silent auction. That was
I think
amazing.
Everybody was looking for something positive and a way to help. Because we were also helpless during COVID. Nobody knew what was going to happen, what we could do. Restaurants are shut down, so we're all stuck at home. And a lot, as Lauren was saying, a lot of chefs, restaurant owners, TV personalities were reaching out to us directly. We didn't have to go find them. There were people that I'd met along the way doing the show and doing some other things, and it just made us feel so loved and so like so much less helpless than we had felt at the beginning. Was that okay? There's people that are just,
they want to help.
Like, they're losing everything too, and they're like, hey, what can we do? And these virtual dinners were huge.
Same with just like the general population that wanted to participate and support and give. It was just this outpouring of support just immediately during this very scary time for everyone because of COVID.
And so this is almost 3 years later. There a lot of times for things like that, people hear and they want to step up, and they do. But you need people to keep stepping up. What do you? I mean, I'm assuming you do fundraisers to the restaurants still, or I mean,
we have a number of things going on. Some are sort of continuous that are small. They don't necessarily, add up to a ton of money, but it's
awareness.
Keeps the word out. So our good buddy Bryce, who owns Gelato Boy ice cream, or Gelato Boy Gelato here in Boulder, he's got a flavor Sophie's Neighborhood, and
She
we
designed
actually
the pint
he had
container.
another one for another little girl who had a different disorder. We met her mom early on, Mila. So he kind of, he has these ice cream flavors that are supporting us.
It's called Gelato for Good. It's a whole line of
Okay.
flavors that are dedicated to.
So people can buy that, and then okay.
And Pizzeria Locale has a kids pizza where I think it's a
$1
dollar
from every
a pie. There's a few other restaurants in Denver and Boulder that just kind of have these ongoing programs. It could be a cocktail or a dish. And, we get these checks out of the blue, and it just really makes us feel loved. So that's not necessarily going to fund a huge mouse colony, but what it does is helps keep the word out there that we're still doing this.
And it all adds up, yeah.
And it does add up.
And we do, like, every National Ice Cream Day since July of 2020, we have called it Sophie's Ice Cream Social, and restaurants in Boulder and Denver and ice cream shops have all contributed on that day. They dedicate a flavor to Sophie or come up with their own, catch to contribute. And so it's become, Sophie's Ice Cream Social has become a major kind of tentpole event that we
That's cool.
have done every year, which is really cool. And then
Drew and those folks over there at Sweet Cal.
Yeah.
Huge support.
The best.
I love them.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
He said to tell y'all hello. We were
We
going to
love
try to
that guy.
connect when we're
Yeah.
out here. He's one
great.
of a kind.
He really is. He's such a special person.
And then we do these bigger events, and we haven't done one this fall. Things have been a little nuts.
The Steamboat Food and Wine Festival, we're nonprofit partners of theirs.
Sure.
So they contribute portion of ticket sales from that entire festival to our nonprofit, and plus our restaurant participates, and we did a lamb butchery demo this year. Last year was a pig butchery demo, and all the cuts that were produced from that butchery demo were then auctioned off to the guests, and all of those funds were directly contributed to Sophie's Neighborhood. And then this fall we were a partner of the Boulder Burgundy Festival, so this amazing Grand Cru Burgundy dinner that was held at Black Belly. We were able to be recipients of the funds generated from that festival. So it's really been quite amazing to be in this industry where we have something to provide, or we can partner up with people who want to work with us, and then from there be the beneficiary as a nonprofit, and it's really a beautiful thing. So we've done a number of different supper club dinners and different things that all together have enabled us to raise quite a bit of money, and we need to just continue doing those types of events, and it is our hope to do something even bigger,
put on our own event is what I
Yeah.
meant. Just something where we can get a lot of chefs together and big winemakers. We did something early on with what do we have, 6 master somms.
Yep, and that was a
6
virtual
chefs.
dinner where we delivered meals to all the people that participated. But a number of chefs, each chef did a course. We boxed it all up in this beautiful box and delivered it around town, and then got on Zoom with or master somms and tasted wine and ate together virtually. And that was October of 2020, I think.
And all the chefs were James Beard Award winners. So it was this really cool experience. It was virtual, but to have a nationally recognized chef and one of the top wine professionals in the world talking to you as you're eating the dish is a pretty amazing thing. And so we hope to do something soon, maybe next year, where it's in person.
It's been about
like
partnerships, and it's just been beautiful. We could never do this ourselves. And we're reminded, there are some kids in town that have come to our side. So there's this little nonprofit called Cookies for Cures that started by a girl who, when she was 10 years old, basically started it because her friend from childhood was diagnosed with a fatal rare disease, and she wanted to do something as a 10-year-old to help. So she started baking cookies, and then when she heard about Sophie, she started baking cookies and selling them for Sophie. And during the pandemic, would be on the patio here at Santo,
so awesome.
Selling cookies. And so all of it adds up. It's amazing how much. I think we ended up raising, because we did so many pop-ups with her, we raised $10,000 in cookies.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's all of these interactions with people in our community and chefs in our industry have produced hope for Sophie, and it's been the most beautiful thing that I could possibly imagine. And so while it's such a terrible, unfortunate situation, it's put us in, created relationships and provided silver linings throughout this really hard period of time. And thank goodness Sophie is doing well because as a result of the research that we've already been able to put into place, we have some learnings, and I really do think they're helping her today, but we're not finished. And
well, it's not only that. I believe that with all this goodwill and people pray for her, and people just send this good energy. Not to get too metaphysical about it, but I do think there's something in that where there's all this true from the heart hope and prayer directed at her, and I think that can do something too. That at the very minimum it keeps our spirits up, and it gives us that energy to keep going and keep fighting for this, because it can get pretty overwhelming. It can feel really daunting, and there are some disappointing days. There have been letters we've gotten from some of these scientists, and just the other day there was a rejection, and there's some you put all this hope into something, and then it turns out to be a dead end, and you got to dust yourself off, turn around, go down another path. And luckily, as Lauren has been working so hard on our foundation, there's a lot of kind of irons in the fire, that we're not putting all our eggs just in one basket with one researcher. There's a lot of different people working from different angles and in different ways. So the hope is at least one of these projects will turn into something amazing. We've already had some luck. I mean, the drug she's on now, while it's not curing her, it seems to be slowing down the progression at least a little bit. Noticeably, her hand strength has gotten a little bit better. She started riding her scooter, which she was never able to do before. We're taking her skiing soon. There's some things that are working for her. Again, her bones are getting worse, but it's not happening at this really rapid pace where she's just kind of disintegrating. So we're really hopeful for that, and we're just so thankful for all the love and support we get every day. I mean, it's just amazing
from every angle. Yeah,
and she's pretty damn cute too.
She's cute.
Once you meet her,
she's freaking cute. I saw that video. I she's very special. Clearly,
yeah.
She's in my prayers.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. Wow.
Yeah,
sorry, I just got a little chills there.
Yeah.
There are some people I would love to connect y'all with as y'all start working on an event or something. Folks that I've gotten to know that over the years that I'm sure would have a lot of interest in being a participant and helping in any way they can. I'm thinking, Marijuana Irani at Chaipani in Asheville. Do you know Marijuana, or have you heard of him? No. Chaipani just won James Beard Best or Outstanding Restaurant or whatever.
Okay.
Phenomenal dude.
Cool.
And a few other folks that just are doing great work and have the right intention and heart, and so. And I have another idea I want to talk to you about off camera,
cool.
off recording.
We
or
love
whatever.
ideas. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow, y'all. Well, okay. So for people that are listening, what can they do? What would you like them to do if people hear this and they're touched by the story? Do they go to sophiesneighborhood.org?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the easiest, fastest way to help us out. sophiesneighborhood.org. It's a 501c3, so 100% of the money is tax exempt, and it all goes to research.
Yeah.
100% of the money is strictly for research into MCTO and rare disease efforts.
Yeah, and truly bone diseases are so they're so complex in general, and we also do strongly believe we're going to learn, and I think this is also why we have a lot of interest in the scientific community, that we're going to learn how to help other conditions with similar pathways and similar cell types. And so yes, all of our research will help MCTO, but it might also help other people as well.
And then also, we have a social media page. Sophie's Neighborhood is on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and we announce kind of these auctions that we do, these virtual auctions and
events,
things people can buy, and events. We're always shouting out the people like Locale or Gelato Boy or Big Red F, all these places that support us, so people can do little, big, or in between.
Tell me about the cutlery. on the website.
Oh, yeah.
Is that like
That was
cutlery
an
that
amazing-
y'all use in this kind? Like, because I saw that, I was like, no, that's pretty cool.
Very cool.
We
There's
met
a company
these guys in Steamboat, right?
Food and Wine
Yeah.
Festival. They're based in Colorado Springs.
Was it Wolf
Wolf
Cutlery?
Cutlery. They have a store in Colorado Springs called Tahoe Kitchen Company, but they create they're knife makers. That's what their focus is, and they go to all the food festivals around the country, and that's where they sell their knives. But so we met them through Steamboat Food and Wine Festival, and they are just amazing human beings. They have hearts, big hearts, and they heard our story. And because we were beneficiaries of the festival and reached out and said, we want to do something with you, we can create a custom knife for Sophie. You can sell them on your website. We will donate to any of your auctions. And so we just started doing stuff with them, and they actually came out to our most recent Burgundy Festival dinner and set up a table and did knife demonstrations, and their knives are amazing.
Yeah, their knives are cool. They're really heavy duty. They use this really strong German steel. So they're incredibly sharp, incredibly strong, kind of hefty knives. They have a whole line, bread knives and slicers and chef's knives. And so they have a whole set, and they created this line of Sophie knives. But if you, we have the link on our page, but if you, they have a special website set up to where if you go to the Sophie's version of their knives, anything you buy off their website will they'll donate a percentage of that sale to our foundation. So
and it says Sophie Edition etched into the knife.
I'm buying some of those knives. Yeah. I saw that when I went. I was like, no, that's freaking cool. I like that. Is really neat.
They got a little giraffe on them. That's her favorite animal.
Oh.
So it's really cool. We have all the knives at our house. They're great knives. Yeah.
I bet she's like, look at that, man! Like
I
my
know.
own knives.
She doesn't. I don't think it. I think it's still like it doesn't really phase her.
I don't let her play with the big.
Well, yeah, you're right. Well, yeah, right. That's right. She's not playing with them, but yeah. Well, that's cool too because anytime somebody's using them, they're it's just another reminder. Like,
and it's something to talk about. If you have people over for a dinner party and you're preparing food, you can explain where this came from and that it's actually benefiting a young child and rare diseases. So. It's pretty cool. It's been just such an interesting bipolar experience because there's a lot of cool, wonderful things that have come, relationships that have come from this experience. I just wish it wasn't for our kid, but you're dealt the hand of cards, and it's kind of all about how you play it. And we're just fortunate that we're surrounded by people that really care and support us, and so that therefore we can support her.
You two emanate good vibes and love and whatever it is, and I'm not surprised at all that people are supporting you. And that little girl is super special, and that's very clear. So, you're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
When you, so towels, is that where you're taking her when you go skiing?
Yeah, well, and also Ignite is a program at Eldora that we just got her into, and that's another adaptive ski program, much more locally. So she's going to start doing that in January. Really cool people there that run that program, and it's actually a growing program at Eldora. They're building a bigger facility for people that just, from every adaptive need, they can assist getting on the mountain and feeling that thrill. And that's one thing that Sophie doesn't get, those like thrills. She can't do monkey bars. She can't do big slides. Like, she can't run up, a big hill. And so I think that downhill skiing, because the brace or the boot is almost like a brace, it'll support her feet. And then if she has the support of instructors that really know how to help people with special needs, she might get a fun little thrill out of that. So that's our
last winter at Taos with her adaptive instructor was really cool. I mean, she was coming down, she was holding the instructor had a ski pole out so she could grip the ski pole and hold her, but she was doing a little wedge, and she was skiing down, and it was you could just see her face glowing. It was
nothing like it.
Really,
loved it.
Really good. I mean, it exhausted her. She can't just. Like we said before, part of this disease, it makes her very tired very quickly.
She tires quickly.
But to see her come down the slope and smiling like that, and it didn't hurt that one of her instructors was named Vanilla. That was his name, so that was cool too.
That's awesome. Vanilla.
Yeah. Her favorite flavor.
But yeah, Eldora does this program, and I've also heard that Breckenridge has a really great adaptive program as well. We haven't taken her there, but there's a couple of these programs out there, and there's a lot of other really cool foundations and programs around Denver, Boulder, and all over that
have helped a lot.
Help kids like get in pools or get them on skis or get them on a bike ride or whatever it might be. Horseback is very therapeutic.
Yes, it is.
So we've done that with her quite a bit. And, just these experiences that she can get, no matter how she gets it, it's still like she's living and she's experiencing new things and getting out there in nature and all that good stuff.
I want to come in like January. Let's get DQ, go up there and do some skiing up in Eldora.
Yeah, we should do it.
I went to last summer. I had never been to New Mexico, and I got to go to Santa Fe last summer for a couple of days. I wanted to get to Taos. The context was Dave and Dana were going to their house up in Michigan. And he called me in like May. He's like, look, we're going to be gone for like 2 or 3 weeks in August. Bring your family out and stay in my house. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to bring, like, he's like, you know how he's like, yeah, you are. Do it. So I'm like, okay. So I decided that it would be a good idea to rent a 32-foot RV and roll out here from North Carolina with my family of 5 in an RV. We made it. I was Clark Griswold of the whole thing. I thought it was the greatest thing ever, and they're like,
had a camera on that thing.
Great, another cornfield, and because like so much of there's just so it had its moments. We got here and we were here like a few days with our RV parked on Dave's cul-de-sac, and like we're sitting at lunch one day at somewhere on Pearl Street, and my family's all kind of quiet, and they're looking at me, and I'm like, what's going on? And they're all like, we don't want to ride back in the RV. I'm like, well, how do you want to get it back? They're like, we want to fly. I'm like, okay, well, they're like, can't you just get somebody to tow it? I'm like, yeah, you know how you always see RVs being towed? Like, no. Well, can you get somebody to drive it? I'm like, no, who does that? Like, no. Like, we're supposed to. So I'm like, you know what? You aren't fine. I took them to the airport. They flew home. I'm like, all right, my God, I got this RV to myself. Dave's always talked about Santa Fe. Went down to Santa Fe.
Nice.
Hung out there a few days.
Good job.
Had a great time. Beautiful. In fact, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen is I was driving down, 25? Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm like, it's like the sun is starting to set over the Rockies. And I was like, I got to stop. Like, I just pulled off the interstate and just pulled over and just sat there for like 30 minutes just watching it set. And it was like,
it's my favorite time of day.
Freaking amazing.
Hosea loves a good sunset.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it was unreal. And
yeah, New Mexico has special sunsets,
special
skies.
Where I grew up in Taos, it's the mountain chain right there in Santa Fe. It's called the Sangre de Cristos.
Yes.
Which means the blood of Christ, because the mountains are on the other side of you as they are here. So when the sun sets in the west, the mountains light up, they get really red.
Yes.
And you get all these shadows, and it's just a marvelous thing. And people always talk about the light and the sky in New Mexico, and you really notice that when you're in a place like Santa Fe, where you just get this light that's different than anywhere else, and it's really magical.
It is very magical, and that's a cool place. I really, so different, so
Yeah.
But I've always heard about Taos. I've always wanted to go there, But yeah, I really enjoyed that. I had a Cormac McCarthy book I was reading. I did not know that he's actually from there. I met somebody. They were like, he lives here, right? I was like, holy cow. So but it was a cool experience. Although I will say the only time I've ever been scared in my entire life driving a vehicle was there was like somewhere on 25, and there even was like a high winds advisory thing. And next thing I know, I'm like, my white knuckles, and I'm like, I could barely even keep it in the lane because you've got this big side of this RV and the wind's blowing. It's like blowing me into another lane. I'm like,
driving a sailboat.
This is when I'm really glad my family's not with me, because like I don't need anybody like screaming right now.
Right.
But anyway, well, look, y'all. What a wonderful opportunity. I really, really appreciate y'all taking the time to do this. I hope that. Well, I have some ideas I want to talk to you about, but I just, people listening, get dialed in, check them out on Instagram, sophiesneighborhood.org on the website, buy some cutlery, do something. And these are great people with an amazing daughter, and what a great community, the restaurant community. And that's why we've got like 6,000 restaurants across the country that I want to figure out a way to, in 250,000 employees. So I want to get this message to, as many of them as we can in some way.
Great.
So
We're always shouting from the rooftop about what we're dealing with. This isn't something we're scared to talk about or ashamed about. This is just our life now. And,
right.
Her survival, her future means a lot more to us than the success of the restaurants.
Absolutely.
It's our whole life's work. We still need our jobs, we still need income, but our focus is her and her health, and by extension other kids that are going through stuff like this.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for shining a light on it.
So thank you.
Absolutely. Love y'all. Appreciate it. All right. That's a wrap, y'all.
All right. Bye-bye.